Welcome back to the show, everybody. Well, bombshell new information about Rachel Reeves' housing scandal have emerged today. And I bet she thought she'd got away with it. Of course, our beleaguered Chancellor, that is. Oh no, Rachel, I'm like a dog with a bone. You're not getting away with this one on my watch. Well, today it's emerged that Keir Starmer is refusing to reopen the probe into Rachel Reeves' illegal letting scandal, despite fresh revelations in today's newspapers. A source has told the Daily Mail that before engaging her current lettings agency, Miss Reeves and her husband had approached the estate agency Knight Frank about managing the property. And guess what? They were warned about the need for a licence. So, that's one warning from Knight Frank and another by her current lettings agency, both stressing the need for a licence. Well, that's very interesting, isn't it? Because in her first letter to the Prime Minister, she said we were not aware that a licence was necessary, and so we did not obtain the licence before letting the property out. Very interesting indeed, eh? Well, a few days ago, Downing Street released new emails that claim to show the fault of her lack of a housing licence was on the estate agency she used. Well, interestingly, again, the lettings agents say they offered to apply for a licence on the client's behalf. So, did the Reeves family ask them to proceed? And why didn't we not know the answer to that now? Offering is not the same as being instructed to do something, is it? And now, you can argue it's a small oversight for sure, but many of you will be thinking the same thing as me. Why were no questions asked? Surely, Reeves, a woman with an incredible eye for detail and a sterling business career, should have spotted something was wrong. Or what about her high-flying senior civil servant husband, perhaps? Well, maybe you can argue that she just didn't see these emails and that she wasn't aware of this obscure law. OK, well then, on October the 20th, Reeves tweeted a warm, fuzzy welcome to Leeds City Council's expansion of their landlord licensing policy. She said this: "This scheme means private landlords in the area will be required by law to obtain a licence for any residential property they are seeking to let and must meet certain standards to ensure the property is safe and in decent state of repair." Aha! So she does know these laws exist. And if she knows about this very specific housing law in Leeds, then it really begs the question as to whether she, as a landlord herself, should have known that she didn't have the right requirements. Either way, questions will now arise as to who pays the inevitable fine, because the agency just apologising doesn't excuse the Chancellor of not having the licence under law, does it? If she avoids the fine, then surely a landlord in Waltham Forest who allegedly was fined 66 grand for failing to licence a single house that was split into two flats, well, surely he should get his money back after writing some muddled apology to the Prime Minister. Is that how this all works?
There's one rule for them and one rule for all of us.
All right, so to summarise the facts, the Chancellor and her husband appear to have had two warnings about the need for a licence, which means, without a doubt, they knew that they needed one. That means Reeves' original letter was either a lie or yet another oversight on the same issue, and that the bare minimum should raise serious questions about her ability to manage the entire British economy, let alone one house. Now, the questions. Number one, the letting agency offered to get a licence, but did Reeves or her husband instruct them to do it? Two, a fine is due to be paid. When will she pay it? Is she going to get off of the fine? If she does get off the fine, by the way, wouldn't it be a bit fishy given that her sister is a councillor in the same borough her house is owned in? Three, why won't the Prime Minister reopen the investigation? The ethics advisor has essentially only seen a handful of selective emails and been used to recuse the Chancellor of any wrongdoing 24 hours after the story broke, before then having to look again at new emails and make the same judgment. Doesn't seem very thorough, does it? All in all, this whole scandal stinks of a cover-up, and yet more of the one rule for them and one rule for the rest of us. You were promised change, weren't you? But that was a lie. They are just knee-high in it, the same as the rest of them. But the big difference is they told you they were holier than thou. What an utter car crash of a government it is.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living. And maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Now let's get the thoughts of my panel. Adam Brooks, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good, thank you. You?
Very good, thank you, mate. Listen, I think this is a scandal. I think this is a cover-up. Every bit of this story hasn't added up to the last bit we heard before. We found out today this breaking news that the Chancellor appears to have had at least 2 warnings about a licence. How much can you get away when you tell the Prime Minister?
Look, this is the most corrupt government of my lifetime. Scandal after scandal after scandal. She blatantly lied in the first letter to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister's second letter to her basically accused her of that. Now, she lied on her CV as well, so we've got a Chancellor that is known for lying. My problem with this is that if that was me, I would be prosecuted and I would be fined. Why is the Chancellor not going to be prosecuted?
We don't know yet. We don't know yet.
Right. But why? I'll tell you why, in my opinion, the Prime Minister will not get rid of her. Because if a Prime Minister gets rid of their Chancellor, that is curtains for the Prime Minister himself. He knows that. And what signal does that send to the bond markets? We're already in a very fragile place at the moment with interest rates, mortgage rates and the economy. Getting rid of the Chancellor now would send shockwaves through the markets. And I think that is the only reason that Keir Starmer is not sacking her. So at the moment, we have not got the best Chancellor that we could have in power. We've got someone that cannot be moved because it would cause too much trouble and too much hurt to the markets and the government, in my opinion.
Ellie, every bit of information that's come out about this scandal at every stage has had a bit of different information that essentially when you look at the piece before you go, oh, but you said this.
Totally. It does stink of a cover-up, and I think, Adam, you're right that essentially Starmer doesn't want to sack his Chancellor just weeks before the budget. But this entire episode has been so farcical, and it completely undermines any past and future investigations into ministers. So, as you say, she said, oh, we were unaware. Immediately, Starmer goes, oh, it's OK, it's fine. Then he said, and then it comes out, then it's revealed that actually she was aware, her husband was aware. It's absolutely shocking. And by the way, in that council last year, there was a landlord and an agency that were fined £3,000 for the same issue. We don't know if the council will decide whether or not to fine her. But you would have thought not only should the Chancellor know what licence she should have and what requirements are needed for renting out her house, but also, the lesson she needs to take away from this is that ordinary Britons are burdened by these regulations and rules that are unnecessary, and she was out championing them. She should learn, actually, if we were to believe her that it was a mistake, if I managed to miss this, then maybe we should review this policy. That's what she should be doing.
Well, I certainly agree with you there. And Sebastian, the problem the Chancellor's got here is that she's going to it seems like she'd have to pay a massive fine. If she doesn't pay a fine, that would be absolutely nuts. And, of course, I think the British public would say, well, it's one rule for you, one rule for the other people that I've listed. But on top of that, the thing that people really winds British people up the most is that they don't really mind these little things happening because, of course, they are human beings, MPs. They are people. We all make mistakes. People have made mistakes in this law as well. However, it's when they sat in opposition, were holier than thou, they tried to force Boris Johnson to resign over a bit of birthday cake. I've had multiple Labour supporters, activists, councillors come on now and say, oh, no, I don't think you should have gone over that. It just stinks, doesn't it?
It's leagues apart. A bit of birthday cake, Alex. They were partying in Downing Street while people in this country died. And Adam, I'm sorry, I have to come back on this. The most corrupt government of our lifetime. Where were you in the last 10 years? We had Chris Pincher appointed as a chief whip, when there were known allegations of sexual harassment around him. We had Suella Braverman leaking controversial, which he resigned over in the end. We had Suella Braverman leaked controversial information as Home Secretary.
Right.
This does not compare. This is somebody
do you want me
who has
to compare?
forgotten. This is somebody. I'm talking about Rachel Reeves. Here. This is somebody who has forgotten to get a licence. Nobody here has had the curiosity to ask, will she be fined? The answer, as Southwark Council has told us in the public domain, you have 21 days once it comes to their attention to pay. If not, then you will be fined. So the difference between this and anybody else is clear as day.
Isn't the argument that they knew about the licence, though, quite long ago?
That came out on Thursday. Today is Sunday.
They had these emails about knowing that they needed the licence, right?
Yeah, so when the council says, hang on, where's your licence, you then have 21 days to come back.
So let me just come back on this. In 15 months, we've had a housing minister that has failed to pay stamp duty. We've had a corruption minister that is accused of corruption. We've had Prime Minister in Keir Starmer that failed to declare freebies from his friend Lord Ali. We've had a Transport Secretary who failed to declare a fraud conviction. A business secretary that caught lying about being a solicitor. That is an offence. Rachel Reeves herself lied on her CV. Any other person in any other job would be sacked. That is in 15 months. You cannot say that that is not a corrupt government.
So that's great, Adam. You've got your clip for social media now, but what I'd ask you really is the most corrupt government of your lifetime. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Did you start following politics 2 years ago?
Because, Sebastian, he's got a point. When you look at that litany of things, it's been what, 18 months? They've been powerless. And it took the Tories 14 years to build up that kind of record. It's taken the Labour Party 10th of that time.
Who said that they would be cleaner than now? You know, who said that they would clean up politics?
Corrupt, at least scandalous.
I mean, look, my background's in journalism. I love a scandal more than anybody. But sitting here talking about Rachel Reeves forgetting to get a licence, it's small fry, isn't it?
What about lying on your CV?
Are we going to go through everything? I'm not going to defend...
We would be here all night, you're right.
I'm not going to defend any minister who's resigned. They were right to resign over them, and they were right to resign quickly, and I'm pleased to see that, because in the last government, we certainly didn't see that. We had people clinging on for dear life. We had Dominic Raab sitting on holiday while Afghanistan fell. He was Home Secretary. We had Priti Patel bullying, being found to have broken the ministerial code. Did she resign? No. Did Boris stand by her? Yes.
I'll ask you this.
That was a corrupt
Rachel
government,
Reeves,
we saw one.
If she gets fined for this or prosecuted, should she resign?
That's up to her. I'm not going to come on this programme and call for
do you think, as a Labour councillor, that the Chancellor should resign if she is fined or prosecuted?
I'm not going to call for anybody's resignation.
Of course you wouldn't, but you would if it was a Tory.
Sebastian's let the lessons of Labour pass when you call for everyone and their dog to resign over the most insignificant things. And this is really where the problem lies for Labour. The British public will forgive you if you make silly little errors in your public life, because, again, we're all busy. We've all got... These laws are ridiculous, quite frankly,
I'll just add to that, Downing Street was asked, actually, whether or not she would have to resign if she was fined, and the Starmer spokesman refused to answer.
Well, of course, because remember, you can't make the laws and break the laws. That was another problem, wasn't it? But we've got to leave it there, unfortunately. And I just want to correct myself. Ellie Reeves, Rachel Reeves' sister, is an MP, not a councillor. I misspoke there. Beg your pardon, everybody. Right, thank you all so far for getting in your messages. There's a letter here to the Prime Minister. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, wrote this. There are selective licensing requirements in this ward for renting out a property. Regrettably, we were not aware that a licence was necessary, and so we did not obtain the licence before letting out the property. This was an inadvertent mistake, and as soon as it was brought to my attention, we took immediate action and have applied for the licence. OK.